Thanks for joining us this hour. We begin as Prime Minister Netanyahu's corruption trial will resume today, and reports indicate the prosecutors are seeking to bring witnesses in the coming months and expedite the proceedings. Netanyahu's trial on charges of fraud, breach of trust, and bribery began back in May. Though the Prime Minister attended that first hearing where the charges were read out, he's not expected to appear for the proceedings today. Now, for their part, the Prime Minister's defense team is expected to push for more time to prepare for the trial and could ask for a delay of somewhere up to a year. Now, to get more on just what's happening today with the trial, we go to our correspondent, Jonathan Regev, who's there at the courthouse in Jerusalem here. What's the latest in the trial today? What's the schedule, and what do we expect, Jonathan?
First of all, David, a trial, a session regarding technicalities or timetables would usually not be very interesting. That is, if this would not be the trial against our Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This is creating major interest, even though there's no issues of guilty or not guilty today. It's only about timetables, and yet a lot of interest here at the district court in Jerusalem. What we're hearing now is basically what we've heard all through the legal case. The prosecution wants this trial to begin as fast as possible, have many sessions, as many sessions per week as possible. The other side, the lawyers for Benjamin Netanyahu are trying to slow the process, and this is basically the main criticism against the Prime Minister, saying that he's doing every possible thing to delay the trial, doing every possible trick. The latest thing we're hearing, his lawyers are saying that it is impossible to interrogate people at this time. Why? Because of the masks. They're saying that it is basically impossible to interrogate people in this reality. Therefore, they're asking to delay as much as possible this process. They want to have much more time to prepare. There are constant changes within the legal team defending Prime Minister Netanyahu. The lawyer who came here today, only one lawyer said that he's only entitled to come here to this session today, but not to further sessions. Constant tricks, according to the critics, by Prime Minister Netanyahu to delay the procedure. This while the prosecution wants to proceed and go forward as fast as possible.
Thanks for the update from the courthouse. Jonathan Regev, our correspondent there today in Jerusalem. Now, thousands of Israelis came out Saturday evening to anti-government protests in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, focused on the government's flailing economic policies amid this resurgent coronavirus outbreak and calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resign over his corruption trial. Now, in both cities, protests began in areas designated by police, but later spilled over into the streets, resulting in 15 protesters arrested later in the night in Jerusalem and 13 arrests made in Tel Aviv. That was the latest in a series of nightly protests that have seen clashes with police who worked to clear blocked roads with water cannons and other riot dispersal methods. Here's some of the protesters.
We are protesting against our government that doesn't do nothing for the citizen. Everything is closed, everything is open. We don't really know what's going on with the corona, with the numbers. People don't know if they have food to eat tomorrow. We want answer, we want food, we want our money back.
Benjamin Netanyahu, he has a trial, and we believe that he is unable to perform his duties and that he has failed in managing the economic crisis and the health crisis.
Now we're joined by police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld. Good morning, Mickey. Thanks for being with us here. Yet again, this time dozens of arrests made both in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. What happened in both those circumstances?
Well, yesterday evening, we knew there were protests that were going to take place. They were coordinated at the beginning with the Israeli police, both in Jerusalem as well as Tel Aviv. Step by step, the situation was calm and relatively quiet and orderly until later on in the evening, where unfortunately both in Jerusalem as well as in the area of Tel Aviv, things got out of control when protesters took the law in their own hands. We saw, based on the protesters, they were walking down the streets, unfortunately started being involved in disturbances, and immediately police roadblocks were set up in order to make sure that we could maintain and prevent further violent incidences from taking place. But police units responded quickly only to specific events where individuals were acting illegally. And in the area of Tel Aviv, 13 people arrested. In Jerusalem, 15 altogether. But what I can confirm is that the units responded quickly, only using non-lethal weapons, and obviously our units were there on standby exactly for that reason.
Yes, for what feels like a week now, the nightly, daily news cycles filled with scenes of large-scale police operations, water cannons, etc., as you mentioned, non-lethal, reached a new level of intensity here. Has the public protests, have they reached a new level of intensity, or have the police measures evolved in the face of this ongoing movement?
Well, police have always assessed the situation and are ready to deal with, of course, what happens at the protests. The people have the right to protest. We want people to have the right and go on the streets if necessary. Of course, under the specific rules and regulations of COVID-19, what the health and ministry organizations have put out, meaning
Really lost police.
Everything is being done in court.
Mickey Rosenfeld, thank you, Mickey, for being with us. We lost the feed there at the end, but now facing well over 1,000 new coronavirus cases daily over the last week here, Israeli policymakers have been under immense pressure to come up with a way to stem the outbreak while balancing the staggering economic costs of shutdowns, either partial or complete. New measures such as shutting restaurants and public places as well as schools are all being considered again this week. The government's cabinet today is set to approve Prime Minister Netanyahu's proposal to disperse some 6 billion shekels, about $1.75 billion, in handouts to all Israelis to help people get through the economic crisis caused by the pandemic. Yet coalition tensions have hovered over the government's coronavirus policies, and today drama is expected to play out once again over the chairwoman of the coronavirus committee, who recently defied the directives of the Prime Minister to close gyms and pools. For more on all of that, we're joined by our correspondent, Alec Pollard, who's in Jerusalem here now on the government decisions. What's expected to come regarding closures, Alec?
Well, the government is continuing to deliberate over that. There's a bit of a rift that's going on inside the Likud party because the head of the coronavirus committee, Yifat Shasha-Biton, she's one of the parliament members for Likud, is going against the decisions that were being made from up top, from Benjamin Netanyahu and from Chezi Levi, who's the head of the health ministry. So she's going against that, against the shutdowns that they were proposing, the weekend shutdowns, also trying to keep the restaurants open and the gyms open, and now Netanyahu wants to fire her over that opposition, but he's going to need the help of Benny Gantz, his coalition partner, to do that. So a bit of a conflict of interest that's going on inside the party, different decisions, different opinions over that issue, and we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. But we know that from up top, from Netanyahu and from the health ministry, they are looking to implement some forms of shutdowns to curb the infection rate at the moment, but there is opposition from inside the party to doing that.
Now, on the all-important economic side here, the status of this aid money, this package that the Prime Minister proposed at the end of last week, where does that stand?
That also needs to pass in Parliament. They need to approve it. Again, that decision, very controversial. There's a lot of people inside the Treasury itself who say that it's not a good move to hand out money like that. Also, a lot of people who don't need the benefits, who have not been affected by this crisis, will also be paid. It's a massive amount of money. So a lot of opposition to that, but it's needs to pass in Parliament, and most of the things that have been decided by the Treasury, by the Prime Minister, have passed in Parliament because usually the party backs him up on those issues.
Thank you very much, Alec Pollard, our correspondent in Jerusalem today. We'll keep our viewers updated on all the latest regarding the coronavirus outbreak.